Hey, this is Robb Moreira, the voice of Yukimaru from Fena Pirate Princess, voice of Mika in Genshin Impact, and the voice of Zhang Bao from Wolong Fallen Dynasty, and you're watching the Points of Experience podcast on YouTube or Spotify.
Today is going to be a really, really fun episode because someone who is what I just kind of found out through the episode. I had my suspicions, but I felt like I was talking to another version of myself in a way. Someone with a very similar energy and thirst for life and finding their way and their success a little bit later in life through, just pure tenacity and love for it. And Robb Moreira. He is a fantastic voice actor. He has done the titles he had just mentioned, but you all are probably getting to know him from Mika in Genshin Impact, which is soon to be released. And when I found out that Robb booked this role, I couldn't have been more ecstatic for him because the range that he has is so apparent when you get to hear him and just his personality and who he is versus the character that Mika is. It's just it just shows that there's so many talented people who you don't really know what they are capable of until they're given that opportunity to showcase it. And he talks about how this came through for him and he was just like, I don't think I'm going to get this, and then just went for it, and lo and behold, you're the person that books it. We talk about him starting off in his career going to LaGuardia High School, which is a very popular performing arts high school, and kind of the perception he had of what life would be like after going through this conservatory high school program into navigating life after school, so to speak, and getting a 9-to-5 job and figuring out classes and workshops and finding his niche specifically in what would be his bilingual voiceover career, doing commercials and promos and working the gamut of things and getting kind of into this industry in an unconventional way, kind of listening to people's advice and saying, I don't know if that necessarily applies for me. I know you're saying this is the golden rule, but I think I might be an exception, like many of you might be. And I preface this by saying there are rules to be followed to a certain degree, but sometimes you have to be able to showcase what's really great about you in an unconventional way, and you should dare to try something a little different. And, I heed my caution with this, and this applies to very specific things like, the way you present yourself in voiceover. Sometimes we get so scared about following all these rules that sometimes it's other actors that have created for us that we don't dare to be our most authentic self. And you'll hear about that for Robb in just a little bit. But without further ado, we got Robb Moreira on the Points of Experience podcast. Robb, thank you so much for coming on, dude. It is a pleasure, again, like I just said before, to meet you face to face. It's such an interesting world we live in because I feel like, especially because you're from New York and I was in New York as well, that we hadn't run into each other in the face-to-face prior, which is kind of crazy.
I know.
Maybe we have. Maybe it is possible we did and we didn't know it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure there's so many times where it's like, man, I think I've seen you before. I'm sure we must have at least once or twice.
LA, I've realized, is a very small town, but New York too, in the voiceover scene, it's kind of even more niche and small when you get into the nitty gritty of it.
Absolutely.
And that's like one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on because, and I'll start off with this before we get into you. One of the things that I found really early in my career was the voice actors of New York City. And you've been a very prominent figure in that, always kind of, leaving advice and interacting with people. And I was always, whether actually myself interacting or just passively like, I'm taking that, I'm taking that.
It's a great group, especially for that. It's like, you know what? I don't even have questions. There's just a lot of great info here just to take and file away for later, for sure.
It is. There's been so many resources, whether it's been coaches or just do's and do nots. I mean, we'll get into that and the list will go on, but that's, you're someone I've known about, and I've been really excited for you and all the success that you've been having in other fields, because you have been killing it prior to like these last few years, but I think a lot of people are finally getting to know you and
know who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to jump into that. I would love to start from the beginning in any way, shape, or form, because how people's origin stories always are different. I think. I think. Did you grow up in New York City or the surrounding area?
Yeah, born and raised in Queens, New York, Forest Hills specifically.
Okay,
I was Forest Hills. Went there, and then I went to high school in the city. So yeah, I'm a city kid.
Wow. Okay, yeah. I was Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. So
nice.
Garrison Beach. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. So for you grew up in Queens. Mm-hmm. You were going to school in the city. At what point in your life did kind of either entertainment, acting, performing, that relationship enter into your life?
It was interesting because when I went to junior high school, it was actually really cool because like my zone junior high school, they had this thing where in 6th grade you have to do 4 different types of courses to figure out what classes you're going to be taking, like what your studio is going to be for the next 3 years for 7th, 8th, and 9th. So you had to take drama, you had to do music, you had to do art, and you had to do some like random media thing. And I remember my brother telling me, and it's funny how it's like the smallest nudge, like sets off this crazy domino effect for your entire life. And I remember, because my brother, he's 6 years older than I am, so he had been to the school. He took all the classes. He knew what was what. And he told me he was, I was really excited about doing art. I loved drawing. I was really big into illustration. And he told me, he was like, you know what? Maybe you should do drama. Like, I hear it's really simple and you're really funny. I think you'd really get it. I think you'd enjoy it. And I was like, all right, I guess, whatever. So I went through 6th grade. And then when 6th grade finished and I had done all the courses I was supposed to take, after doing drama, I was like, man, that actually really was kind of fun. And then I did it just kind of as a whatever decision, something that seemed cool. But by 8th grade, I was like, man, I really am enjoying this. But again, it was through that outside voice that I ended up pursuing it even further. My drama teacher at the time, Adrienne Gelfand, amazing woman. I'm still friends with her on Facebook, and she's just amazed at everything that I've been doing because she remembers me at 13 and 14 doing these monologues and these small little scenes in her class to now seeing me book these jobs. It's like she's getting to see my whole career from then to now. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. And she was the one that told me, she was like, hey, listen, I think you should really check out the LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts. I think you have a really good chance. You have a really good affinity for acting. You have really great natural raw talent. I think you have a shot. And me being the teenager, I was like, I guess whatever. I don't take it I wasn't taking it seriously. Like, I like the idea, but I wasn't the serious actor. I'm a teenager. What do I know, right? Yeah. And then she actually had an old student of hers from LaGuardia come in to talk to us because I was part of the drama club. And then the student, she came to me after, like, we had done some skits and improv games or whatever. She came to me and she was like, I just wanted to talk to you personally and just kind of let you know, if you humor going to LaGuardia, I think you have a really good shot. And it was just all these voices kind of telling me, like, do this thing. Yeah. Try it out. And I was like, all right, I guess I will. Now, at the time, I'm aging myself here, but at the time, my junior high school still had 9th grade. But it was the first year that you could go to 9th grade at a high school if you wanted to. They actually had that option. So it was like finish junior high school in 9th grade or go to 9th grade in high school so you could leave junior high early, basically. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I potentially have another year in junior high. Should things not pan out, let me audition for LaGuardia. during 8th grade and see if I get in. Other people were trying for several high schools. It was like going through college. What's your safety school? I was like, listen, I'm going for one and I'm just seeing what happens. And I got in. And I was like, oh snap. All right, I guess I'm doing this. I guess this is what's happening. I guess this is how my life is going. And that was probably the best half-assed decision I think I've ever done.
It's super... I feel mature of you at that time to even, because I think of myself back at 8th grade, and it's like if somebody said, do you want to like try out for a school or anything, I'd be like, what?
Whatever.
This is all taken care of for me. Like, I go from here to here.
Yeah,
my mom and dad figured this out, whatever. That's such I think, first of all, you had the talent to get in, so you must have had a little bit of a push to be like, okay, maybe this is the right path for me.
Yeah, for sure.
But do you remember what that process was to get into the school? Because for people who don't know, LaGuardia is very famous for a lot of, I don't want to say like child stars that come out of there, but I think Timothy Chalamet came out of there most recently.
Timothy Chalamet was probably the latest big name to come out of the school. But if we were to backtrack, a couple of people that went, Jennifer Aniston was really big there. I actually had one of her teachers, which is really funny. He's like this really hardcore Stanislavski, like Russian, like drama teacher. So he's like super serious.
At 8th grade, you must be like, what?
Yeah, so it was wild. And it was funny because I think it was probably sophomore, junior year. Me and my buddies, we were like, should we ask him about like Jennifer? Should we ask him like just to see what he says?
Yeah.
So we went to him. We were like, Mr. Yusim, this was his name, Murat Yusim. Mr. Yusim, you taught Jennifer Aniston, and he went, "Oh, yes." That was his reaction. So then we were kind of like, "What did you think of her? Like, did you think she was gonna be this like star?" And he was like, "Very pretty, very little talent," and that's all he had to say. Dude, I was dying.
That's so, like, I feel like that's a very genuine question in a way, too, because you want to know where does that kind of spark start for people? Because I don't think that a lot of people, I'm not saying this about myself that I'm in any capacity anywhere near Jennifer Aniston, but I don't think I had an ounce of talent when I was, like, first starting out. I think I had raw passion, and I had real like desire to learn and get better, but I think it took me a while. So were you kind of that same way too? Did you?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
100%. Like I had that raw energy, and I feel like that separate. Like there is this. I feel like there's two kinds of actors. There are those actors that are just so well trained that they didn't necessarily have that raw acting energy, but they got so well trained they became really good at the craft. And then you have the raw energy folks like you and I that I feel like we had that thing and it just had to kind of be directed appropriately before we finally landed on like it's almost like we're like a river with no embankment or anything, and we just need to like kind of be brought into place so that we can channel that energy in one area. And I feel like I had a lot of different aha moments where I realized in myself and in my craft, oh, I get it. This is what acting is. Now I understand. And I feel like every actor, at least in our respect, we have several moments of that in our career. Like we never go, oh, I get it, and now we're masters of the craft. Like it's not that. It's like, oh, I get it right now. And then you keep going, and then you hit that next aha moment. You're like, oh, now I get it. Now I get it. And then it'll happen again like 5 years later, and you're like, oh, now I get it. It's a constant learning process. And yeah, like right now, I'm very good at what I know. And I think what makes me a great talent is that I also know where I'm weakest at, and I constantly work at that. I am not a perfect actor. I know what I'm not good at, and I work at those things to get better because I try to be as versatile and as well-rounded as possible. But I know my weaknesses. I'm very self-aware. I will try them. I won't shoot myself in the foot. I always let them tell me no. But I know what I'm great at, I know what I can nail, and I know which ones I'm definitely shooting my shot at.
Can you unpack that a little bit for me? What do you feel like you have in terms of your strengths, and what do you think the things that you are like, okay, maybe this isn't my strengths, but I can give it a shot, or it's my, if you want to define it as your weakness, how do you categorize those things for yourself?
It's actually very interesting, and anybody listening is going to be like, wait, what? But like commercial, that's my bag. Being the conversational, cool, regular guy is super easy because that is difficult. That is very difficult to nail, because you can speak to someone pretty regularly, and then when they tell you, okay, talk like a regular person, your actor brain shuts that part of your brain off for some reason, and you're like, how do I just be me? I must perform. I am an actor. Yeah. You know? So I got really good at switching that off, switching that part of my brain back on when I act. So I got really lucky in that regard. So that I would say is my strongest, is really being myself. Where I feel like I am the weakest is surprisingly doing animation and video game characters, which is what I seem to be obviously announcing very regularly as of late.
Yeah.
so it's kind of funny, but that's that. And if it's maybe not that is where I am weakest, but that's where I feel maybe the most self-conscious.
Sure. And and this is and I'm really happy we're having this conversation, because I feel like, and this is the thing that I felt when I was living in New York, I felt like there was a little bit of a lack of opportunity in that regard for animation, video games, anime. I felt like I was navigating a world where if you didn't know like the one or two people who cared about that or cared about you in New York to give you those opportunities, you just weren't getting them. And that was what inspired my move to LA. And it's funny because I moved right before the pandemic happened. And then it's like, I moved in 2020. I finally like touched down. I had to go move back, or I moved January 1st, 2020 to LA.
Out of
Drove
here.
cross country. And then January 5th is when we got here. About a week or two later, I had to come back to New York because I was doing a multi-record audiobook with Audible, and I was doing a TV series that I was here for a month for. Here. I was in New York for it. I still think of New York as home,
my
man.
Here.
It's so,
Not your here, my here.
So I'm in New York for like another month or two, and then I'm finally back in March. The next month, April, everything shuts down, and then I start seeing opportunities like for people in New York getting these LA auditions and things, or at least more frequently, or the barriers were spread a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So I wonder if that is a product, if you recognize that, like you just weren't seeing as many of those opportunities, and then once you got the chance, it's like, okay, now I can kind of feel a little bit more confident and play and try, because I think a lot for me what happened was I learned trial by fire. Like as soon as I was getting the opportunities to do these things I never was, I was like, okay, I tried that, I tried this. Now I'm more confident to take that long shot. Yeah. Is that kind of what it was for you?
Absolutely. It's funny because like there's a lot of parallels in between how you and I kind of like operated in that regard, where it's kind of like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always found myself as the type of actor that I'll rock a workshop, but I feel most growth when I'm auditioning.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying? When I'm auditioning 100%. Real stuff that's coming out, that's really getting put out there, that helps me kind of really wrap my head around what's percolating right now in terms of that specific style. And I feel like I get more out of that than, doing a workshop. No shade on workshops. Workshops are fantastic. And if people love doing them, that's cool. I just feel every actor works and learns differently. And for me, I'm very much a trial by fire kind of actor. Yeah. And that's how I've diversified as much as I had, is because, audio description is something I've been doing 5-6 years now. And that was literally like, I did an audition. They always ask, hey, have you ever done audio description? I'll try it. I'll never say no. I'll just say, I'll try it. And I leave it at that. I either, yes, I've done it, or I'll try it. You'll never get a no out of me.
I love that.
It won't happen. I never say no. I'll just say, I'll try it. I'll give it a shot, And that's how I did that. And then that's how I got into audiobooks. And that's how I started doing medical explainers. And in Spanish, no less, which medical in Spanish is like, You know, if the medical words in English weren't like insane enough, trying them in Spanish is even worse. But I do them, you know, and that's how it happens. You know, you just can't be scared and limit yourself. You know, you have to kind of force yourself to grow, and that's kind of like. You know, I take the doomsday approach of things. It's kind of like I force myself to evolve, you know, to become a better actor. And that's how it happens. You know, you have to take those chances. You have to take that risk. And you have to be willing to bomb. You have to be willing to bomb. And trust that whoever that you're working with, whoever the director is, that they're going to take care of you as an actor and be able to lead you to where they need you to be, because that's going to make them a better director. It's going to make you a better actor because now you could take direction better as well. So everybody's kind of growing at the same time, but you just got to be, you have to be willing. And for actors, I know that's really tough because we are incredibly self-conscious creatures by nature. We can't help that.
Yeah, I mean, that's often the Achilles heel of many people, and what's makes them leave the industry sometimes is they can't deal with the rejection or the constant no's, and you have to build a little bit of an armor to deal with that, but also to push yourself past the point where you're like, if I don't show what I've got and I have the courage to be like, someone might go, what did they just try? You might not give yourself the opportunity to find that magic. And
Absolutely.
It's very scary, just like stand-up comedy. It's like if you don't get up on that stage and risk everybody not laughing or laughing at you, you'll never know if you can do it. So
absolutely,
I feel like voiceover and acting and all forms of acting really has that similar approach. I think you oftentimes are able to share in that misery with your scene partner sometimes, but voiceover, it's like it's just you. You know?
Just you. It's
unless you're in a group record, but most of the times it's just you.
More often than not, it's just you. Yeah,
it's scary. It's a very tough industry.
It's intimidating.
Yeah, I always try to preface it by saying, if you are scared of doing it and you still keep having like this desire to keep doing, that's probably a good sign, because I don't think there's ever a moment where I feel like I'm walking into a job and I'm like 100% I'm the dude, like here I am, guys, where do you want me?
For sure. No, you just walk in and you're like, all right, let's work. Let's collaborate. Let's do this thing.
So I think that's very helpful, and I want to jump back a hair for you. When you're still young and you're in LaGuardia and you're going through this program, was it how many? Is it 4 years of high school there when you're? Yeah,
it's interesting. So it was 9th through 12th.
Okay,
and you do 4 classes. 4 to 5 classes of regular stuff like English, math, your usuals. And then you have lunch, and then you'll do 4 classes of studio, just strict conservatory style training. Wow. So when you're a freshman, sophomore, that's the beginning of your day, is that you start in studio, and then you finish it with your regular academics. And then when you're a junior, sophomore, junior, senior, then it flips. At least when I was going there. Sure. And yeah, it was intense, man. I mean, we did, play analysis, improvisation. We had 2 periods of acting every day. We would have 2 periods of dance. So, you did it all, really. Yeah. Voice and diction, you did everything. And that was actually one of the things that helped me the most. It was voice and diction, because it completely neutralized my New York accent. I had a very urban New York sound to myself, and it completely eradicated it. Thank goodness.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah, so you have this just natural cultural way of speaking as a New Yorker. We're known for it, and that helped extremely well. Obviously, also doing Shakespeare fairly regularly. While we were there. You start to change. You start to change as a person. You change as an actor, especially in those years. I mean, those are your formative years as a growing, soon-to-be adult and as an actor. It's a lot to take in. But, when I had that trigger in my head, I finally got it. But, it did... Leaving that school did have one harmful aspect, was that I walked out feeling like the king of the world, waiting for the world to kind of hand me my just desserts, which when you get into the real world, you realize that's not how it works. That's not how the real world works at all. So while I am enjoying success now and the wins that I have now. It was a very long journey of a very long dry spell of making absolutely zero money before I got to where I am right now. And it's interesting because some people could look at that as a bad thing or say like, man, you've hustled for so long and this and that, the other. But truth be told, if I experience the success that I have now at, let's say, 21 years old, I would not have been prepared for the kind of success that I have right now. There's no way. There's absolutely no way I would be able to handle what I'm doing now at that age. I was way too young, absolutely too immature, and way too egotistical and way too cocky to handle it. There is no way. All it would have done, it would have cemented a really bad notion that I had in my head that I was God's gift to acting, and that would have done nobody any good. I would have fizzled out in my mid-20s, and I probably would have stopped doing it, or I probably would have burned so many bridges I would never know how to make my way back. So it was very interesting. It was a long grind, but it wasn't a long grind for lack of talent as much as it was a necessity to grow as a person, to be able to actually capitalize on my talent appropriately.
Yeah, I think not just what LaGuardia might have given you in terms of your idea of what life would be like outside of high school. I've experienced that to a degree with my college education. I went to NYU in college, and it sounds like LaGuardia is kind of like that college experience conservatory-wise, where you're getting that type of education. And then they don't really, at least my college experience, and I've talked with people at the school since then about this, they don't really prepare you for what life as a working actor is, they don't really prepare you for what the experience is going to be. Auditioning, figuring out a survival job, learning how you're going to pay your rent, learning how you're going to get health insurance. There's all of these things that are happening in conjunction with, I just want to be an artist. Like, you just gave me 4 years of me expressing myself and crying all day, every day. Now I got to worry about all this other stuff. I got to promote myself. I got to figure out agents and managers and getting hired, marketing and self-promotion. It's a very weird world to enter if you're not properly prepared, and especially from high school. So I totally empathize and understand that idea of like, all right, who's ready to give me my sitcom? Because I had a little bit of a similar feeling.
Yeah, and you can't help that. You can't help that. Like, you're good, and your teachers tell you you're great. Like, you're aware of that. It's not that. It's a misplaced sense of knowing your talent. You are good, and you absolutely are. It's just that we were not equipped to handle what actually being a functional actor what it really actually takes to be one. Yeah. And it's a lot of not fun work, especially at the beginning.
Yeah. And especially when you're figuring yourself out too, like you're still going through puberty and you're still figuring out who you are as a person. It's like,
dude, I was like 19, 20. I was like, I'm just happy I got a girlfriend. Like, I don't know what's going on with the world. Like, really? Jeez.
Yeah. And now you want me to be the face of some sort of brand or a series. Like, it's like, it's hard for a lot of people. So
for sure.
You do 4 years of LaGuardia. Then what is the plan? Is it like, I'm going to take the world by storm, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to, like, what was the plan after you leave the LaGuardia system?
So I left LaGuardia, and I was waiting for the world to, present me all of its Hollywood fame.
Rightfully so, yes.
And, because that's how it works. And it didn't. So I was like, all right, new plan. So I did go to Conservatory. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts afterwards, and I did 3 years there. And after I did that, I had another aha moment as an actor. So now I felt really confident and more humbled, a little bit more humbled now. At this point, I was a little older. I went through the process again, and it was nice to kind of almost like go back to a school system, because it kind of like reset me a little bit. I really did enjoy that. So I feel like that kind of grounded me more. And then when I was done, I was kind of lost. I'm that actor that never really had many actor friends. So I never really had people to bounce ideas off of, nor did I have a mentor per se to kind of tell me what to do also. So I was very kind of just floating around. So I ended up joining a theater and education company called Nightstar, and I was with them for a couple of years, and they were really great. I did that for 3 years, actually. And then, so it scratched that creative itch, and it helped me pay bills. And then, after my third year, I was like, okay, now I really have to kind of step out of the world. I kind of feel like I'm still kind of in a cushiony place where I feel like I'm being taken care of. I really need to step out there and do something. So when I finished there, I ended up getting a normal job, like most people, a 9 to 5. I did that, and I basically just kind of ran around the local theater scene for a while.
Was that the dream at the time, to do Broadway, off Broadway? Was that kind of like where you were, your eyes were?
If I were to look back, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't really actually know what my plan was as an actor, truth be told. It was almost kind of like either a movie script lands on my lap magically because I didn't have an agent or anything. Lord knows how that was going to happen. Or I just kind of kept doing what I was doing. It was very weird. I was in a very weird kind of lost place. So I kept doing local theater because it kept scratching that itch. Yeah. And I definitely appreciated my time doing that because it kept me practiced. And I did a lot of different roles, very, very versatile roles. Several times that I play a woman, which was very nice. That was entertaining. And eventually, something a very chance off comment, kind of like my brother, happened. And I was in a production, and there was a fellow actor in the production, and she did voiceover herself. And I remember, just by off chance, because we were friends on Facebook, I would see when she said, "Oh, I booked this for Oil of Olay and this company and that company," and I'm like, "What are these these bookings that you're talking? What is that? Like, what is it that you're doing? Like, is it like a model shoot? Like, I don't understand." And she told me about, she gave me the rundown about voiceover. And this was in, was this 18? Yeah, I think this was like 2018 that she told me about it. And at that time, which is really cool, so blessings to her, Sri Gordon. If I'm not mistaken, I believe she's still, in the circuit, but she's very quiet. She ended up telling me about voiceover, told me to get a microphone, told me to have a home setup at that time where it wasn't even a big thing. She was like, just have this stuff because you never know, and just get used to hearing yourself and get used to recording yourself, because your agent might send you stuff if you get an agent, and you're going to need to record it. So you need to record it quick. Just get something cheap, something that you can have in the house. And I was just like, all right. I mean, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And she was like, just take workshops. Look, check out this place. It's called Actors Connection. Just look at all the workshops that they have, and just take one and just see if it interests you, because I think you'd be awesome at it. Yeah. And I was like, all right. And it felt like my brother again telling me, just do drama. I think you'll be good at it. Just that's the smallest of nudges. Yeah. To go somewhere. So I did a workshop. And obviously, like everybody, I thought it was amazing, because voiceover is amazing. It's the greatest job. So I was instantly hooked. I did an animation workshop, obviously, because that's how everybody wants to start in voiceovers, doing animation. So, of course, that's what I wanted to do. So I did that. And I did that with Bryant Falk over at Abacus Entertainment. And I remember talking to him, and he told me, he was like, listen, man, like you're good. Like, what you're doing. Like, you sound really good. You have a good handle of this. I think you might have something here. You might want to push further. Yeah. So, I was like, all right, I guess I could think about it. He was like, yeah, we'll just do a couple of one-on-ones. And then if you want to make a demo, you can make a demo. So obviously then there's the big demo dollar sign in your head, and you're like, man, sorry, I got to save up for this and just got to see what happens and go from there. So I did the few one-on-ones with him. Went really, really well. I cut a commercial demo, one that I still use parts of right now because it was just that good. I did the demo. I got the demo. And then I just kind of sat on it for like a year because I did not know what to do.
And this is 2018?
At this point, this is... No, sorry, not 18. I'm so off. Sorry, no, this was like 2013.
Okay,
my bad.
Because in my head, I'm like, "There's you."
No. Yeah, no, sorry. This was 2013. Sorry, I got my numbers crossed.
Okay,
no, this is 2013.
3s and 8s. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, because 2014 was when I signed with my agent. So
okay,
this is 2013, beginning of 2013. So I had this demo and I just kind of sat on it and I didn't know what to do, and I kind of went back to what worked. I was like, okay, what was it that kind of reset my brain? What is it that I need to do? I need to go back to classes again. I gotta start back at zero to see where I messed up, because I started and I got a demo and then things fell flat. I must have missed something. So I went back to workshops. So I started doing workshops again. And these I did with Marla Curbin, rest in peace. And I did a couple with her, and then I was like, okay, I need to get the most bang out of my buck when I do these workshops. What's going to make the most sense? So I stopped doing actors workshops and I started doing the agent specific ones. I was like, let me get myself in front of people. Maybe that will spark something. So I started getting in front of them, and I figured if anybody's going to tell me the stuff that I need to know, it's probably going to be the agents, the people that are actually booking this stuff now. So I did a couple. I did some with the Atlas folks, the Sound Lounge folks, a couple of different casting directors and agents, and then there was one that I went to. And when I went to it, Marla told me, she was like, hey, listen, I'm going to give you some English copy, but I'm going to have some Spanish copy for you just in case. And I was like, yeah, sure. She was like, you're fluent, right? I'm like, well, yeah, of course. I grew up in a Dominican household. Yes, I'm very Hispanic. She was like, okay. So I went to the workshop. I did my read, and I saw Linda Weaver from Access Talent. She looked over at me. She was like, huh. She was like, do you happen to be, are you bilingual? And the reason she asked that is because of the way that I slate my name before I say things. I always say Robb Moreira. I don't say Robb Moreira. I don't anglicize anything. My name is Moreira. That's how it's pronounced. That's how I say it.
Heck yeah.
So I said, Robb Moreira. So she was like, are you bilingual? I said, yeah, I'm bilingual. She was like, okay, do you happen to have Spanish copy? I was like, yes, I do. So I read the Spanish copy, and she was like, okay, cool. And that was that. I was like, all right. Cool. I mean, I showed her what I got. I guess, it is what it is. 2 days later, Marla's assistant hits me up and she says, just so you know, Linda Weaver is interested in getting your demo. Do you mind if we pass it along to her? And I'm like, do I mind? Yes, do it now. Don't even ask. I'm like, don't ask. Yes, send it. She was like, okay. So she sent it off. And then like 2 days later, Linda calls me and she says, hey, listen, so I let the gang at the office hear your demo and we absolutely love it. Now, what set me apart on this demo is that I took a really big risk. Now, this is one thing I didn't tell you about my demo, is that when I did my demo, I made a bilingual demo.
And this is a commercial or animation demo?
It's a commercial demo.
Okay.
And I made it bilingual. So a lot of people say, no, you should have an English one, you should have a Spanish one, but I didn't have $3,000 to burn, and I had to make the most out of it as I could. So I literally had an English one, Spanish one, English one, Spanish one, English, and then the last English one, I finished it with a bilingual ending, basically, which was for a mock Patron video. So it was an all-English demo, but at the end I said, Patron, disfruta la vida. Boom. There you go. There it is.
Yes.
So they loved it. They were like, this is genius, because now we know you're bilingual. We know what you sound like in both languages. This is a great demo. Yep. So I was like, awesome. Now, another thing to bear in mind when I was doing all of this, I wasn't in any Facebook group. I had no voiceover friends except the one that told me about this. So I had no guidance. which absolutely helped me. Because if I was in these groups, as helpful as they are, I'd be incredibly confused on what I should have done. I would have heard 10,000 people telling me that doing a bilingual demo would have been a huge mistake, would have shot me in the foot. Nobody would have listened to it. And then I would have had another handful of people telling me, maybe that is a good idea. Maybe you should try that. So if I got all that information, what would I have done? I have no idea. I literally went with my gut instinct the first 4 years of my voice acting career. And I think that's really what made the difference on how I ended up getting to where I am, which is now why when I speak to people, I tell them, you got to trust your gut instinct. People have the best intentions for you, but sometimes what the market says is what you have to do is not necessarily what you should be doing.
Yeah, I think it's also, too, and that's so amazing that worked out that way, and I have a very similar inclination because anytime I see a bunch of people doing one thing, my mind instantly says, well, if everybody's doing that, I'm going to get lost in that mess and I got to go the other way. I have to do something different. So, and there's, obviously, you have to meter that to a degree. It's like if, there's certain instincts you don't want to do the complete opposite.
For sure, for sure.
But I think that was a very great risk and it made you super marketable and viable and they wouldn't have, you have one shot sometimes to get in front of these people and you utilize that to the best of your abilities and your finances at the time.
I did not have the money, I mean, how many times have we seen where people say, if you're starting in voiceover, make sure you have like 10 grand because that's what you're going to have to drop on stuff. Yeah. Had I seen that number, I probably never would have even approached doing voiceover. Okay, like 10,000, I don't have 10 grand lying around, And the truth of the matter is, have I spent that much? No, I've spent probably double, maybe even triple that over the course of a very long career where I was making a lot of that money back, not to mention that the money that I spent was money that I was making in the business. Yep. So I had my day job while I was also doing this on the side, kind of like this small growing business. But that's how it ended up happening. No, I didn't have a $20,000 nest egg that was like, this is the voiceover, investment money. It wasn't that, you spend it as you get it. Yeah. And you build it and you grow as you go.
And reinvest into your career. It's so smart, and I think people get excited when they start making money and they want to start like buying things. It's like, no, this is a career where you don't have to have 1,000 different microphones. You don't have to have the best of the things, but you want to make sure you have the things that make you competitive. And definitely when someone's booking you, you don't want to be like, oh, I don't have that, or I can't do this, or that's changing a little bit today. Like I see people moving away from Source Connect. I see, but I think
that's true.
Being able to have all of the tools that you need, you don't want one of those things to be the reason you don't book something.
Exactly.
At the same time, you don't need the $3,000 microphone. You can get something that is, comparable for a fraction of the price.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, the booth that I'm in right now, it's not a Studio Bricks. It's not something fancy. It's not a $10,000 investment. This is a $4,000, made to order booth from a company that nobody's ever heard of. But one thing I can tell you is that every engineer says the same thing. Holy crap. What booth are you in?
Dude.
They were like, your sound is so clean. They're like, man, we get so many actors and the sound is just like, it's bouncing all over the place. They were like, thank you so much for having such a great setup. And I'm like, you're welcome. And it costs half the price of what a lot of other actors have out there.
Dude, we are so similar in that regard because like I did the same thing with this. This is I spent, I'm not even kidding you. I mean, I found somebody to help me construct all of these
the panels?
Panels and clouds. I have a bunch of clouds above me and I have bass traps.
I like those.
But I did it for $1,000. And every engineer tells me, every engineer is like, your room is insane. And I got lucky that I don't have a lot of outside noise and stuff, and I did something with my door. But you don't have to, and this was what I was going to comment earlier, you can either look at those numbers and be like, there's no way I can achieve $10,000. I should run away. This isn't the business for me. Or what I would always do is say, okay, how can I learn to do the thing I need to hire somebody else to do for me? So how can I figure out a way to build these panels and get the education I need to, make 2x4s into acoustic panels and get the rock wool and get the chains for the clouds. I learned all that shit. Same thing went with my demos too. I recorded all of my stuff that I could for my demo, and then I worked with a producer for, I'm not even kidding you, my first demo was like $300 because I just needed them to do the sound effects for me. But I did everything myself. And I wouldn't recommend that to everybody because you need to have the know-how. But
yeah, exactly. But like there's a way. And it's going to be different for everybody, you know what I mean? Like to go back to like my story.
Yeah.
So after Linda called me and she told me that they all love my demo, they signed me a week later.
Wow.
And that's how I started in voiceover. I started with an agent. Now, real talk, Paul.
Yeah.
How many people have said when you first start as a voice actor, do not go for an agent?
Always. It's the majority of people.
Every time. And that's exactly how I started.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I was shooting for an agent. I wasn't sending my stuff out. I just put myself in front of them.
Yeah.
And if you could do that, then do that. Why not? Why not shoot that shot?
Yeah.
So when I kept seeing that critique going out by people saying like, no, don't ever go them. You're not a proven talent. You have nothing to show. This, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so then what happened to me?
Yeah.
So that, because that is not at all. I was absolutely an unproven talent. But they saw something and they knew that I was different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were kind of like, hold on, this guy got a nice, cool, chill conversational tone and he can speak neutral Spanish. That's money right there.
Heck
That's, I mean, we could get money from this guy on two ends of the spectrum. That's amazing.
You recognized your authenticity as well as you were fitting a niche in the market that wasn't regularly being like presented. And you were a good actor. You had the years of training to back that up. This was a comment I wanted to say too, because a lot of people get into voiceover and they don't have a background in acting, and that's totally fine. Absolutely fine. It happens all the time. 100%. People become amazing successes. But a lot of people who are giving out the information and advice, a lot of people get in the business of telling people how to do things and like telling people how to follow the rules. And that becomes their business. So it discourages a lot of people from taking those risks. And it's like, wait, but I have this other thing going on. Do I still have to follow these rules?
Right.
And we have a lot of people who are the exception, a lot more than you would think.
Many.
But they get hindered by like this overwhelming advice. Don't go for the agents. Don't do this to your demo. Don't do this. It's like, but then how is it working for me? How is it working for these people? If you have confidence and you have the goods, which you clearly did, it can work out. And that's amazing that it did. So what happened?
And you just gotta be,
No, go. You
just gotta be willing to bomb. You know, you gotta be willing to take the bomb. You know, for anybody there's so many people that want to self-produce demos. For you, it worked out well.
Yes.
But you know what? It may not work out for everybody.
Yeah.
But how will you know if you don't shoot that shot?
Yeah, and
you
trust
can't
me,
just take people's word for it. I'm not an engineer. Am I seriously going to give engineering advice? Like, come on, you know. And that's one thing that kind of drives me nuts is that when there's like a big one, and this is one that I've told a lot of actors. So many actors that have reached out to me, especially like in the last couple of years, to be like, "Hey, can you listen to my demo and let me know what you think?"
Yeah,
and I'm sure you've gotten the same. Hey,
always.
Can you listen to it? Just let me know what you think. Happens all the time. And I always tell them the same thing. And I'm like, listen, I'll listen to it and I'll tell you what I think. But truth be told, you're probably better off giving this to maybe a casting director that you know or somebody that's actually booking work. Mm-hmm. I don't book work. So I don't necessarily know every facet of what's being booked out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can only speak from my experience of the things that I have booked, but even then that doesn't make sense because the things that I didn't book, I don't know why I didn't book them.
Yes.
Was it my voice? Was it a bad read? Did I sound like the casting director's ex-husband? I don't know. It could have been a billion different reasons. Who knows, right? You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't make sense for me to be able to gauge the quality of somebody's demo when I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you anything about your sound. I'm not a casting director, so I can't tell you how competitive necessarily this is in your specific niche. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm going to give you information that may not be exactly completely helpful. And a lot of people say, oh, damn, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, find yourself a casting director, send it to them. Yeah. Get cool with them. And then just be like, hey, can you just listen to this? Let me know if this is somewhat competitive. If the casting director says cool, be like, cool. But that is just that casting director. There are many casting directors out there, and all of the opinions are as different as fingerprints. You know what I mean? Everybody has a different one.
It's the business of subjectivity, and there is no golden rule. As much as people try to preach this golden set of rules, it's not the truth.
They're not there, man. There's no one set way to do this thing, man. We're all just trying to make some kind of acting gumbo, and we all have different ingredients, man. You just got to make the one that tastes the best and just rock with it. Just let it go. Let it do its thing.
Well, you clearly caught on to some sort of recipe that worked because it got you an agent right out the gate. And then how soon was it after you're working with everybody? And did you start booking things in English or Spanish first? How did that all work out once you were in the agency?
Yeah, it was fast. I started booking right away.
Heck yeah.
So it was jarring, needless to say, because I went from no real acting career to like, oh, I have an agent, and oh, I have bookings. I got to show up places and now record, and it just spiraled from there so quickly. But I was very self-aware of what was happening, and I had to I had a lot of conversations with myself, and I still do to this day, about different things in my business. And at the time I was kind of like, all right, just cool your jets, because this could disappear very quickly. Let's just ride this wave and just see where we can go. Let's just keep showing up, and let's just keep doing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And my first booking was a couple weeks later, probably like 3 weeks later for Maker's Mark. I was doing a demo for them.
Wow.
I did that, and then I did a Purina Cat Chow campaign. And then the biggest one was for McDonald's, and the way that one panned out was crazy. This one was 3 months later, 3 months into my voice acting career. I did an audition for McDonald's, and I did it in English. And again, because of the way I slate, it opened a door. And McDonald's liked my English read, but they reached out to my agent. They were like, hey, we heard the way he slated. Does he happen to be fluent in Spanish? So my agent sent them my demo. And long story short, they liked my English so much, but they had another English actor they wanted to use, but they really wanted to use me. I ended up becoming the South American McDonald's voice for about 1.5 years. And I became a must-join 6 months into my career.
It was insane.
Yeah, I mean, this was a union gig 3 months into starting. Yeah. It was insane. It was insane how it all just kind of happened.
It's a Cinderella story, I think, for people who are like, there's no way that can happen, and yet it can, and it did, and that's
100%. And it takes a long time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I left high school at 18 years old. Let's say I started my interest in acting at 12, left at 18. I didn't start voiceover till I was 30. I'm now 39.
Yeah.
And it takes a while. That's a long journey, man. That's a long journey, and it takes a long time. And I know that sometimes when people start posting those big wins, especially when they never heard of the person, they start going like, man, in the last year or two, this Robb guy just kind of appeared. And it's kind of like, nah, man, I've been around for a while.
Yeah, same thing happened with me when I was like, I've been working in this business for 10 years, like making my living doing this.
We've been doing it for a long time. It's just people don't see the ugly side, the ugly work that we had to put in to really get to where we're at now. It's like when you see people get to this point where it's kind of like, oh, I've seen Paul before. Yeah, I know him. And oh, I've seen Robb before. Yeah, I know him. Like our name just kind of floats around very regularly.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we've been working at that for a long time for that to happen.
Oh,
We're definitely not. We're not overnight successes by a stretch.
That's the it's the hilarity of social media, because I think it gives this notion, and it can be discouraging when people see, like, why is everybody getting all these things? It's
man.
I'm not on social media every day saying, hey, this week I auditioned for 30 things, didn't get any of them. Like, nobody is posting that.
Seriously, it's funny too, because I tell people that all the time. I'm like, listen, if I told you how much I audition for compared to what I book, you would gag.
I know,
because like we put in heavy audition numbers, man.
It's crazy.
People don't think about it. But we put in a lot of auditions to get what we get.
And you never know the one that's going to hit, and you don't even know what that's going to be. If it will amount to, like, it might be a demo fee. It might move to syndication. You don't even know.
And how many times have you auditioned for something and you go, I got that? Why?
Almost always. I think it's almost always.
It's like, why did I get that one? All right. I mean, I'm not complaining, but really? Okay. And then the ones that we're like, ooh, knocked that one out of the park. We never hear from them again.
That's
happens all the time.
You have to remove yourself from that, like, and it's hard. It's the nature of the actor to be like, I really want to do this and work so hard on it and get attached to it. But I'm starting to learn now, the more that I can just, like, do the work and then literally, like, MIB myself and just be like, that never happened. Like,
that you never did that role.
Yeah.
You never auditioned for that. Keep moving.
It was a one-day gig. I think of it as a booking, and rather than an audition. It was a one-day gig. I did it. Now it's gone. If they want to bring me back, they will let me know.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny? I mean, I'll get to this in a second because I want to continue the trajectory, but I'm putting a pin in something that'll be really fun. So you work on the McDonald's campaign. You got your career going in terms of commercial, it sounds like, and this is all happening in New York at the time.
Yes.
You're working pretty like stable in a sense. Is it coming regularly? You feel like this is now the full career path?
It's all right. It's definitely still side hustle. I still had my 9 to 5. I worked at a travel company, and at the time I had built myself up to being the manager of a call center. So I had a pretty up there position. So I was doing okay there, and so voiceover was like it was just really great side money.
Yeah.
Now, instead of taking that side money and siphoning it away for, like, rainy days, I kept reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. So the minute it came in, it was going right back out into the business. I was like, I need to act like this money doesn't exist, and it needs to keep getting funneled back into itself so I could keep building myself up and getting better microphones, doing more workshops, and just ultimately equipping myself better for the business overall. And that kept happening pretty much until 2019. In 2019, at this point, I basically had double income. What I was making in my day job, I was making doing voiceover. So I was doing very well. I basically had 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So I could have lived doing one or the other very easily. But things came to a head at the end of 2019. My youngest daughter was about to be born, and the company that I was with at the time, they kind of put me in a precarious position, and this is the ugly side of corporate of corporate, and it kind of opened your eyes to it, and this was absolutely the crossroads of my life trajectory and where it was going to go. At the time, I was a key account manager, so I was a much higher level at this point. And they told me for October I had to fly to Mexico for this big sales conference that was happening. And I was like, that's not going to happen. My daughter's born in October, and I'm not going to do that. She's going to be born October 10th. And no, I'm not leaving the States. There's no way. So my manager at the time, he was like, all right, I'll talk to the bosses. I'll see what they say. And they came back and they were like, okay, they said that you need to at least come for a day. I was like, you want me to fly to Mexico for a day to then come back home to a newborn? Are you out of your mind? So I spoke with my wife, and I was kind of like, listen, I think this is it. I think this is the point where I can't go further doing both.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, do you see voiceover being sustainable? And I said, well, yeah, I do. I do, actually. And truth be told, with the free time that I'll have, I think I could do better. And she was like, really? I'm like, well, voiceover has no ceiling. My day job does.
Yeah.
Unless I get promoted, I can only go so far. But in voiceover, I can really scale to any number. It's really on me at this point. So she says, okay, all right, go for it. I was like, cool, sounds good. So I called my manager. Mind you, this was during my review. And I told him, I was like, yeah, by the way, I think I'm going to have to give you my 2 weeks. And this was probably the most amazing thing. Great, great, great man. He tells me, I was waiting for this to happen. I was wondering when you were going to leave, man. He was like, you're killing it in voiceover. What were you doing here? And I was like, wow. And sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. Sometimes you're too close. And it takes those external factors to kind of tell you, yeah, you're doing amazing things. Like, and you need that. So he said that I parted ways end of 19. November, that was October. November of 19, I bought my booth. And then December of 19, I got my Source Connect ID. And then pandemic hit, and I was 100% prepared for everything that happened. And that following year, I doubled my income, like instantly. It was insane how things like just incredibly changed. And I've basically been riding that same wave ever since. It's just been wild. I've gotten new clients because my studio's in my office, in my house. It's very easy to just step in here. And I've kept myself available to my clients at all times. I feel, truth be told, I run my operation 24/7. I give myself the boundaries that I need. But, if a client tells me, hey, listen, we need something. Can you get this to me by tomorrow? I said, how's 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And they go, whoa. And I don't charge them a rush fee. I don't charge them anything. I just say, no, this is the result of working with me, is that you get stuff quick. You get stuff good. It's well done. It sounds great. That's just how I operate. Yeah. High quality at all times and very quickly. And that's how I've been able to sustain myself at this point. So it's been wild.
It's brilliant. It's quite brilliant and amazing. And kudos to you and congrats, because it's a hard thing to accomplish. And I think it's like you said, when you have that comfortability of a job that's, giving you everything, and then you're like, but voiceover has it has no ceiling, but it can be scary to put yourself on a road that can sometimes the elevator can start falling down, And you're like, wait, I'm trying to go up.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a job of uncertainty. We never know when things may dry up, if ever, but that is up to us to stay on top of things. We at this point know that we can't just settle. You know what I mean? I'm hard-pressed to say that you and I are just kind of running our usual game the way we have been the last couple of years. Truth be told, every year has been different. Yeah. And we've been doing different things every year to change it, to make things better, to get more exposure to some capacity and change what we're doing. You can't look back at any year that you've been in the business and say, yeah, these 2 years were identical, or I did the same thing, or I worked with the same clients. Never. Because we know that. We know that. We know what it takes to operate, and we know what it takes to stay relevant. And if you're not doing that, that's really where you start to tank. Yeah. You have to keep yourself relevant.
I had a gig with Nickelodeon, Nick Sports. I thought I hit the lottery. I was doing their promos, all their commercial promo segments, where it was like, I'm gonna do this. I was doing it for over a year. I'm like, this is my life. I record twice a week, and I'm making more money than I've ever seen in my life. And then they just shut down Nick Sports, and it was gone. Yeah. And that was a reality check for me, and you just have to figure out constantly, like you said, reinventing.
What's the next one?
And something I really like that you said is that this is what you get when you work with me. And when you create that kind of stability for a client, that can then turn to loyalty. And that's a very hard thing to accomplish in this business.
Yeah.
Because the second people are like, all right, we've done a lot with this voice. Let's find this other voice now. Or like, we are very dispensable.
Exactly.
Like it is very.
Oh yeah.
I was talking about this with my fiance the other day, and it's like I actually didn't look it up, and I'm very curious because we don't hear about it as much. And maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe you know. We've seen in the industry like writers, directors, or producers. They've all gone on strike. There's all been strikes.
Oh yeah.
I can't recall. Maybe there was one that I'm thinking of, an actor strike, because there's so many of us, and we're always so willing to take any freaking job there is.
Yeah, there's always somebody else ready to take ready to take the gig.
Yeah,
always.
Because and if you are able to,
especially where we're at, we're in hubs.
100%.
Throw a quarter in the air, it's hitting an actor.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's hitting an actor.
And that's why it's so important what you're doing and you're creating for your business, because it tells people like, I want you to remember when you come to me, you're getting this. And if you go to somebody else, you may not get this. You're probably not going to get this. But when you come to me, you do. And here's a relatable moment. I was, I'm going to say this, and there's no way he listens to this podcast, but I would be damned if he did. The guy who cuts my hair, I was in a rush and I needed a haircut, and I had very long hair like you did for my whole life, and I started cutting it shorter, and I've always gone to this guy out here in LA, and I was in a rush, and I was like, I'm getting it cut short. I'll just run to this barbershop right here because I just didn't want to like drive across town. And I went to this guy I never go to, and he butchered my hair. And I instantly said, this is what I get for trying to skimp and do something quick and not appreciating loyalty. And now I got to go back to him, and he's got to fix it.
Right. Can you fix this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, funny little tidbit of that.
Yeah, man. No, absolutely.
This is all great for you, and I'm so happy that happened. At what point then did the animation and these video games? When did this all start coming in?
So that was probably right after the pandemic started to hit, because like you had said, when the pandemic happened, a lot of those doors started to open. LA started to be thankfully more welcoming to New York talent, and vice versa, which was really, really nice. But that's when that started to happen. So I started to get more eyes in that regard. But my first foray into anime was actually with a company that I worked with here in New York, which is NYAV Post.
Wonderful people.
Great crew. And I did Mazinger Z with them. How did I get into that one? Actually, funny enough, the actress that got me into voiceover passed my name along to NYAV because they were looking for actors. So she passed my name along, so I started getting auditions. I auditioned, and I got into this Mazinger Z anime. And I remember when I went in, I was standing in front of the microphone, and there was the monitor in front of me, and I'm like, what's going on? And they were like, you've done dubbing, right? And I was just like, I'll try. And I'd never say no. I was like, I'll try it. So I tried it, and it's not difficult. We've seen dub things before growing up. I grew up on Gundam and Dragon Ball Z.
Heck
so
yeah.
I was like, I get it. I know what it entails. Now I just gotta learn and do right now. So I did it, and I ended up getting a part. So I ended up doing a couple of kind of like additional voices and stuff, but I was like, oh man, this is really cool. So that's kind of how I got my feet wet. And then I did No More Hero. What was the name of it? No, not No More Heroes. World. Man, I forget the name of the game, but I ended up doing a game with them. Earth Defense Force. There we go. I did Earth Defense Force Iron Rain. I did that one first. I ended up auditioning for a couple of characters. I ended up getting one of the characters that follows the player character. So I was in it for a pretty good amount of time. So there was doing yells and getting injured and blowing up, and this was my first video game now. So I did that. So NYAV kind of got me my first big things, which was actually pretty awesome. And then after I did that, then I did another Earth Defense Force. I did the World Heroes one. So in that one, I did a handful of characters as well. And then I did Bungo to Alchemist, Gears of Judgment. I did that one, which was also through NYAV, but I ended up going to Funny at the time, Funimation. It ended up going on Funimation, and that was one of my first big animes. And it was like I did 3 animes like back to back, like in that one year. I did that one. I did Number 24, which was it was either soccer or rugby. I think it was like a rugby anime. And then I did an audition for this original anime that was coming out. It wasn't an adaptation, totally new. Couple of ninja characters were in it, and I was just like, whoa, this sounds really cool. And I remember reading for one character, auditioning for one character, and I was like, man, I tell people don't fall in love with the characters that you audition for, but man, this character sounds really cool. Like, I don't know what I did, but I just really liked it. And that's when I got Yukimaru for Fena Pirate Princess.
Yeah.
And that was a big one.
Yeah.
And when I got that announced, it was funny because I got the email back, and it was so far between the casting and the audition. And when I got it, I was like, "What's this pirate? What?
Yeah.
I don't even know what this is." Because you do an audition, and then 10,000 auditions later, you get the casting, and you're like, "I don't even remember this." And then when I heard back my audition, because I keep everything that I audition for, and I heard it, I was like, oh, this is the dude. This is the ninja dude. And that was probably one of the wildest experiences, because that was now dubbing from home with all remote cast. And it was just incredible. And I feel like doing Fena is really where I kind of got my foot, now planted into the animation realm and the video game territory. I feel like that's where I kind of started to get more comfortable there and become a bit more of a presence, because there's so many incredible anime voice actors that are out there, especially a lot of you guys are out in LA, that it's hard as a New York talent to try to wiggle myself into a position where it's like, hey, I'm here too. Especially since some of you guys are just so freaking good. That's really what it is.
The talent out here is insane. It is insane.
It's wild. Which is another thing I tell actors all the time is that, you know what, if you want to get into anime voice acting, cool for you. Just know that that's probably some of the toughest talent in the industry. Yeah. Truth be told. Because the people that work regularly in anime, they do for a reason. Yeah. They're that good.
And the people in Texas, the people that work out there are phenomenal as well. It's insane.
Oh, right, exactly. Yeah, same. It's just they're just that good. Yeah. It's stiff talent.
But I will say that it says a lot about you, because the fact that you were able to make a name for yourself in a territory that you hadn't really navigated. Obviously, the pandemic helped, but it says a lot about where you were as an actor and the quality of what you bring. And maybe your studio had a lot to do with it. Maybe it didn't. But whatever you were bringing to the table, they were saying out of everybody, because everybody sees these things. Texas, sometimes LA, and then now New York is getting a little bit. You're in the small group of people that were getting the stuff. You were good enough to. I hate thinking of it this way, but beating out everybody else, you were the person right for that part. And it says a lot about what you bring, and your role on that is phenomenal, and you do such a great job. It's I'm happy that you were able to find the right people, and NYAV gave me my first kind of anime shot, and they're wonderful people. So I Michael and Stephanie, they're phenomenal human beings.
Yeah, incredible. And yeah, man, I mean, and that changed things. I mean, my first con appearance was because of Fena. Yeah. I mean, it was just really wild how it kind of happened. But since then, I've started to also see more video game, opportunities come in, and again, there's so many that come through. You don't win them all, but I got to be in a Superfuse, which is a really cool indie game that's on Steam. That was really fun, and it was so cool doing that one, because the producers, they were just so excited to work with me, because they were like, and this is something that no cockiness. It was just, it's so amazing to hear, and it's so, if gives me so much pride because it is something that I worked on, is to have the range that I do. And that's something that I get, that's a big critique that I get a lot, is that people say like, man, your range is insane.
Yeah.
Like you could do so many different characters, to the point where while I was doing that Superfuse session, they were like, yeah, we're going to book you for another session. We got another character we want you to do. We're just going to give him to you. I was like, yeah, okay. And I ended up playing like one of the bosses like pretty early in the game, this character called Razor. So they ended up giving me that character. So I was like, wow, how cool is that? Like they just started throwing me more characters. Yeah. They were like, listen, let's see how far we can stretch this guy. And they're getting the bang for their buck, and now they know. They were like, man, if we need to knock out like 8 characters, just call Robb.
Heck yeah.
Just get Robb in there, man, because he'll just give you 8 different people, and you'll never know. And so that was actually really cool. And then doing Wolong, which just came out, that recorded a while ago, and so it was funny because I forgot about the game until somebody announced their role announcement.
Oh, shit,
and I saw it. I was like, yeah, I was like, that looks familiar. What wasn't I in that game? And then when I look up like the voice actors in it, I was like, oh yeah, there's my credit. I guess I am in that game.
Sometimes it happens like that. You never know.
It happens, and it's not because and just for anybody listening, it's not that, I hold any project higher or lower in my totem pole. It's just that sometimes the times, especially for video games, the time between when you record it to when they come out, sometimes is really, really long. It's a very long time frame that you fill that with so many other projects that you just forget. It's no shade on the game. You've done so much after that you just don't remember. It's hard to kind of keep it all in track.
One of the first games I did when I moved out here, and I only know it because it's the first big game I did here, has still yet to come out. So we're at 3 years now that this game has still not come out yet, which is insane.
Dude, same. I'm still waiting for a game to come out that I think I recorded, like 2 years ago or so. And I was like, okay.
I wonder if it's the same game. After we get off this, I'm going to ask
funny.
You.
You know what? We're going to have to talk about that. Because if it is, I'm dead. I'm dying.
So, I mean, and then everything leads to this really kind of amazing moment in this revolutionary game that has come out, which is Genshin Impact, and you get to play this character where we're talking about your range right now. Like, this is like, I think, the perfect example, and this is where I wanted to put the pin in our conversation, because this was a character that I had auditioned for, and I was...
No!
And when I heard you, this is why, because I remember, I was like, wait a second, Robb booked that? I'm like, I think I auditioned for that thing. And when I heard you, I was like, dude, number one, this guy has got some fucking range. Like, when I saw you do that and the way, because it's such a, not only is it range within where you're placing your voice, but your character choices. And it is so consistent. Like, I hear these nuances that you're doing within the way that his intellect is, and how he knows all this stuff about other characters and his knowledge about like everything. Like, I'm hearing certain quirks that aren't like, I'm like that's just embedded in the character, and this is coming out where it just so happens to be fit in the way you're performing it. And I was just so happy for you that you booked that, because you're so right for the character. And I was like, this is why. This what he's doing is so good. So I was so happy, and I want to know what this whole has been like. Did you expect it? What has the life been like, just being a part of this franchise that has been so colossal? And the character's really good. Mean, that's also like a really fun thing.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah. I mean, thankfully he was built pretty damn well to be a great support character.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I got it through my managers, the audition, and when I saw it, it was funny because I saw the character, because they sent it with the picture of the character, and when I saw it, I was like, that's for Genshin Impact. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew right away. Like, the minute you see it, you're like, this is a Genshin character. Gotta be. So I saw it, and then, when I read the specs, I was like, oh, this is a kid. Like, this is a chamaquito. He's young. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, like, you know what? I'm not going to overthink it. I have a boy character that's in my head that I've always had, like, kind of on deck. Yeah. Like, I don't know if I'm sure you have like a couple like go-to characters in your head, right? So that's one of my go-to characters. I've just never done it before. I've never booked this specific character that's been in my head, which is this young kid. So I was just like, you know what? Let me try him out. And let me just see what happens. I was like, I'm probably not going to get it. I mean, there's so many other actors with like, lighter placed voices. They'll probably end up booking this one. But you know what? Let me do it. Give it the old college try, and we'll see what happens. And they came back with a callback, and I was like, oh, okay. Wasn't expecting that, but if there's interest, I'm on to something. All right. So I did the callback, and then I just kind of waited, and I think it was probably maybe a few weeks later, I got the booking, and I remember when I saw it, I was like, no way did I just book this 15-year-old kid. There's no way that I booked this child. And when I got it, I was like, oh my God, I did. All right. Yeah, I guess I'm doing this kid then. So it was really funny recording it because, I have a glass door in my booth, so my kids, they'll walk over and they're like, and I'm like, it's a kid, it's a kid, all right. And they were like, oh, okay. So I did the part, and after I did it, then it's just a waiting game. Waiting for this character to make his appearance. And I knew he was going to appear before he became a playable. So I knew he was just going to be an NPC to some degree. And I was just kind of like, fingers crossed that people don't think he's a complete dork, because he's very stuttery, he's very anxious, and he's just very wound up when he's in a crowd. Yes. So I was like, let's see what happens. But I loved his character design, and he is a child, and that is what makes him so endearing, is that he is this young boy in a world of mostly strong warrior adults that know their place, that are very, very powerful, and he's just kind of in awe to be in front of them. So I was like, I hope that is exuded in how I approached him. He is just reading a letter, so you're not really getting to see him too much, but let's see what happens. And then he dropped, and then people lost their minds. And I was like, oh, snap, okay. So people really, really like this kid, which is really cool. But I didn't necessarily see the Genshin fandom until he was officially announced as a playable and when his release was going to be. Because when that happened, everything changed. And I had been told that. I had been told that. They were like, just so you know, if your character becomes a playable, things are going to you're going to get a lot of attention on you. And I was just like, okay, you say okay, but you don't really kind of fathom how that ends up playing out. And so I remember when the first trailer came out where he was just the NPC character, I saw a slight Twitter jump, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And it was like a couple hundred followers. When the big 3.5 trailer dropped, when that trailer dropped and he was officially announced, and obviously, my name is now put into the credits, I saw a 6,000 follower uptick on my Twitter. And I was like, what is happening? And then it ended up taking like another turn, which was interesting because at first it was just kind of like, oh, he's the voice of Mika. That's amazing. We got to follow this guy. And then the Latino community, they were like, hold on a second. He's Argentinian? And then I'm pretty sure like every Genshin player in Argentina lost their minds, and then they started following me. And they were just like, oh my God, it's like we won the World Cup again. I was like, whoa, come down.
Right off the heels, right?
Yeah, like it was incredible. It was incredible to see how they just loved it. So the Argentinians went crazy, and then all Latinos started going crazy because I started responding to them in Spanish. I started saying, oh, thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. Tengo un orgullo en, ser este carácter. And they were like, hold on a second. He speaks Spanish? Now all of like Central and South America was just like, we love Mika. And now Mika became like, he took on this, this beacon for Latinos, which is interesting because I'm kind of like, did you guys forget that Alejandro is like Sino and he's been around for a while? He's Latino too, guys. But I don't know what it was. I think it was just, the engaging, because Alejandro's, he's at the top of the mountain. He's a huge actor. So it's hard for him to engage with everybody. He has a massive following. I don't blame him. me just kind of creeping in, it's a lot easier for me to be able to respond to the people that, that come my way. So I think they really enjoyed that direct engagement with another Latino actor who happens to be in Genshin Impact, which is a very big game to them and a very big game overall at the moment. And they just really, they really kind of took to that. And they kind of appreciate, they all kind of feel seen now. So it's not so much like the Argentinians feel seen. It's just Latinos in general feel seen. They're like, man, like, this is so cool, man. Though, like, one of us is in here, and they're engaging with us, and they're like one of us, and they get it, and they know what it is to be Latino and to be a gamer and to be in this, and that's so cool. And that's been probably the most amazing thing out of all of it was not so much the character or being in this big game as much as the representation for them and what that meant. That it was one thing that I did not expect to happen, and I probably appreciate more than anything.
Well, it's so amazing, and it's so awesome that you're able to connect on that level, and it's because you're kind of in the throes of experiencing this explosion at the same time. It's like you have the gratification of being in this game and being like, I can reach out to these people and engage with them right now. I'm happy, and I'm thrilled to be a representative for the Latino community and to have this character that is also like, it's a very interesting character. I mean, I haven't played the game in a while, but I still follow all the stuff. I played for a while. I was AR-56, so I was pretty up there. I've said this before.
Oh, damn.
I geeked out on it. But it seems like the character is also really freaking good, and he's versatile. He's like one of the only characters who can use all three of the different weapon types, which is it says a lot about like your character. Like it's a very unique position to be in, and so that there's so much love for this character, and I think there will be only a continuing pour of it once people get to really play and see what he's capable of.
Yeah, he'll be getting released. He'll be getting released soon. He gets his banner up probably like another week or two.
Well, brace yourself, because I feel like there's a second wave coming. So
yeah, because right now, I mean, people are encountering him right now in the wild, so they're already kind of like, oh, there he is. And there's one interaction between him and Sino that apparently that's making its rounds quite regularly.
Oh, heck yeah.
So it's actually pretty funny, but it's really cool now for me being able to see it, because I've never heard my lines with other people. So I don't know how it all kind of got stitched together. So being able to finally see it, thank you everybody who's sharing those videos, because now I get to see the final product, because I'm really early in Genshin.
Yeah.
So it was really cool seeing how he works with everybody else, and it's great. I mean, he absolutely is what I wanted him to be, is that you see him and you hear him and you're just kind of like, oh, I just want to like hug him. I just want to take care of him. Like, he seems so sweet. Like, he's able to take care of himself, obviously. I mean, he is one of the Knights of Favonius, but he's still a kid. Yeah. He's still a kid, and he's still very nervous, and he's still very shy, and he's still very awkward. And he tries to be as nice and helpful and, as he can be with everybody else. And I think he's an incredibly endearing character. I think the funniest comment that I've seen so far that made me laugh, and it's funny because I like seeing like the bad comments. I think they make me laugh. I think they're always funny to see. I think they're hilarious. But the one that killed me, somebody said, why does he sound like the nerd face emoji?
Dude, I you know what's so funny is I was watching a video, and I think it's the same thing that you're seeing, because I saw all your voice lines. And I saw that's like the top, like one of the comments that's there.
I lost it. I was like, oh my God, they're so right. I do.
But that's kind of a compliment, as opposed to like, it's not flame.
I think so. No, not at all.
He's so smart, and he's so knowledgeable, and he's so sweet, and I think that's what you're bringing to it. And that's why I'm curious, like, where does that come from you? Because like, really, I know a lot of that's on the page and what you're what you're reading, and there's a little bit that's coming from the original reference that you're getting, but where for you is that coming from? Is there, like you said, where does that character that you said has always been in your head, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's really weird, because I don't know what made me kind of create that character, because for the most part, That character always kind of existed to some degree in my mind. He probably didn't stutter as much, but he definitely was in that vocal range, and he definitely had that level of shyness. And I think it was because I was so used to playing cool, calm, collected characters that I needed a fragile character. And I think the most fragile that I was able to be was a child. And that was kind of it. And that was the one that just kind of like made the most sense for me. And it's funny because like I have to get into a physical place to actually be him. So it's not like I could just kind of wing the voice. I literally have to kind of like place my hands in a specific way, and I kind of hunch myself down a little bit, and that's actually what makes the Mika voice kind of come out. Same thing with Yukimaru. Like Yukimaru, when I did Yukimaru, who's at the lower end of my vocal range, because he's definitely not my normal voice. That one I was a little bit more upright, but I spoke down to my microphone. So I would speak downwards, and I kind of, would prop one arm, on my leg, and it was almost kind of like in a cowboy stance almost. And that's kind of like how Yukimaru spoke, and it was always one hand kind of like everything that he said was pointed this way because his words were flat, but his intentions were, very specific. So that's kind of how I had to paint how he spoke. While with Mika, it was very kind of hunched in and kind of closed off, and, the hands are always really close together, and you can. So yeah, it's very interesting,
and you can hear it. That's, I think, what's so great about what you did. And I think when you see good actors that are really nuanced in the performance, you can hear like. Everybody, any teacher that's worth their salt will tell you, you have to embody the character. You can't just stand in front of the mic and do it. But like and you hear the difference when you see your performance, like what you have is you hear these nuances where if you're not moving your body in a certain way or you're not putting yourself in that position, you're not going to find that shy giggle or you're not going to find that hiccup on the line where you would have. Like if you're not doting your fingers together, you're not going to go, you're not going to find those if you don't give yourself the physicality of it. So
absolutely.
It's
and that absolutely is what helps Mika, is the fact that he doesn't speak with his hands, but his hands are constantly kind of moving and kind of like twitching and fiddling, and like that's almost like how he pieces his words together, is that he's kind of building them in this little like bubble, in front of his chest, and he keeps everything very close in, while somebody like Yukimaru was very kind of like, hey, I'm kind of out here. This is what I'm saying. Which is funny because now that is, Yukimaru is now a voice archetype in my head. And the way I get into that voice is by saying Fena. Because I said Fena so much in that show that now that is my go-to to get to that voice, is just saying Fena. It's like you say it and it's like it instantly drops like 2 octaves.
I love it. That's something that a lot of people use, and they have their hooks into things, and I am sure I have plenty of mine that I won't bore you with now.
Oh, yeah.
But Rob, I am so happy for you, and you've been really fighting it out there, and like you've said, people are maybe getting to know you now, but you've been around for a while, and to see you rewarded with the praise that you're getting for not just something that was like given to you in a sense, but like you're doing this amazing work that's getting recognized. So I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you, and it couldn't be more deserving. So I'm really happy that you get to reap these rewards that have been rightfully due. So
thank you, man. Thank you. It's awesome. It's a wild ride, and I'm just really happy that everybody that's been a fan. How incredible everybody has been, fellow voice actors, how supportive everyone has been. There's always outliers in anything of people that are going to be negative, and I've been incredibly fortunate enough to navigate away from most all of them, and only surrounded myself with people that have been supportive and nurturing and just incredible overall, you know what I mean? Especially like, running in the same circles like you and I mean, we've run in the same circles for, I mean, years now at this point. And somebody that you and I work with pretty regularly. And I don't know if he does the same to you, but he always brings you up to me, Tom. Yeah. He always tells me, he's like, man, do you know Paul? And I'm like, I don't know Paul, but we run in the same circles. And he was like, man, I'm telling you, man, you guys are great, man. You guys would be so cool together.
We did that movie together. You play JB in that movie, Finnick, right? Yeah, right?
Finnick, yeah.
So I
Finnick,
play like your little, for anyone who hasn't seen this, I mean, I don't think it's available in the States yet, I don't think, from what I've heard. So. But I play like your little monster, and that's how I was like, oh, that's so funny.
You're my manipulator. It's until I like take over and like lose my mind or whatever.
And you're so good in that too. My gosh, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, you too. Oh man,
because I got to hear a little bit of you when I was doing it, so I was like, this is great.
Yeah,
oh man.
Yeah, JB was very much in my normal chamber, and it was just kind of like being able to get unhinged progressively was really fun.
Yes. Hopefully that'll come around in a way that we can watch it. Like,
I hope
that was a fun project, but.
Yeah, a lot of good.
Rob, I've taken up so much of your time. I would love to end on one quick final thing that we do here is you've already given us a wonderful plethora of experiences you've had in your life, but I love to ask people if there is an experience, maybe not related to the industry, maybe related to it, life, family, friends, an experience you have that had an impact on you, whether like it was advice or it changed you, it made you see things differently, that you would feel sharing it with my audience here, our audience, and that might get some value out of it. It doesn't have to, like I said, be related, but it's whatever comes to mind that bubbles to the top of the list.
Yeah, no, I know. I have actually the exact one, and it's one that I actually got a tattoo on my leg for this specific story. Almost 10 years ago now. I ended up getting surgery on my knee for a torn ACL and meniscus. So it was a jacked up knee from years of martial arts. And at 30, I had good health insurance. So I was like, let me get this taken care of. So I ended up getting it taken care of. They fixed it up for me, so I was good. And while recuperating, I ended up developing blood clots in my leg. And I only found out because I ended up getting a pulmonary embolism. So what happened was the blood clot traveled from my leg, through my lungs, through my heart, and knocked me out for a couple of minutes. And basically, from what I gathered, from what they told me when I went to the hospital, they were like, yeah, you had like a 10% chance of living. You're lucky that you're actually alive right now. Because people that go through that don't make it. Like, that's... Because they were like, blood clots have gone to people's lungs. They've never gone through their heart. And your heart took a beating on this one. So after that happening and then being like, holy crap, I quite literally escaped death by the skin of my teeth strictly because I happened to be young and healthy. That changed everything. That changed everything. And funny enough, that was also the year that I started going into voiceover. Wow.
And what does the tattoo you have symbolize?
On my leg, I have a memento mori, which is it's a skull with a rose on top and an hourglass on the bottom to kind of just say reminder to myself that at some point it's all over. And hopefully you can make the most of it before that time happens. And I was fortunate enough to dodge it once, and I'm going to try to make the most out of it from now on. That's for damn sure.
That makes me emotional, man.
So it's really interesting.
I'm so happy you got wow. Dude, I'm very that's a very that's a heavy thing, man. And God, all my love to you about that, and I'm so happy because here's another thing too. I've been watching your journey through like fitness and stuff, and seeing you quite literally transform and become this insane beast has been inspirational to me through social media. So you have given me me encouragement, and I'm so happy for you about all that. And man, wow, that's insane. That is insane. Wow, it took my breath away.
Doing that kind of changed everything for me, man. It changed everything for me. It changed, especially when having my two girls. I had my two girls after that happened, and now being able to spend as much time with them as possible is just the most important thing for me. Which is wild to wrap my head around having lived my whole life, and in their life, in their slices of life that they've so far lived, they've only ever known me as an actor. And I find that so incredible, is that they get to grow up knowing me as the thing that I always wanted to be. And to them, it was just every day. It was just Dad. And I think that's kind of incredible, that through their scope, I've always lived my dream. And I think that's pretty amazing to kind of think about, like, to see that reflection in them. They're like, holy crap, how cool is that, know? And then the fitness journey was just kind of, it was hard to work out, with the knee and figuring out what it is that I wanted to do. And there was a big fear, especially, with my heart, making sure that I didn't push myself too hard. I was just always scared, and it didn't matter how many doctors told me, yeah, you can work out, you could do whatever you want, just do it. I still had to push past that fear. And then, it was 2020. Thank you, pandemic. That I decided to, just do something about it and make a change. There wasn't a health risk or anything, but I was a big guy, and my doctor said you should try to lose some weight if you can. You should. Just for your longevity. You have a family now. So I did it, and 120 pounds later, I'm still going.
Dude,
still going. I'm prepping to be a kickboxer, and life is very different than it was 3 years ago.
I seriously cannot be more happy for you, and you couldn't be the more perfect person to receive such blessings in your life, both mentally, career-wise, physically, everything. I'm just really, really happy for you, and it's been a real pleasure to get to know you and hear more about you, because you, you said, I've heard your name so many times from Tom, everybody. It's just it's a real fun to sit down with someone who I had an inkling we were very similar, and my inkling was correct. So, Rob, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank
Twitter,
you,
is that where people should be following you?
Absolutely. Yeah. At Robb with 2 B's, Moreira, VO. That's the easiest way to catch me. Worst case scenario, just Google Robb Moreira and you'll see all my socials pop up. I'm pretty easy to find.
Fantastic, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we'll get to meet in person sometime soon. Maybe at a con or something. Who knows?
Yes. Oh,
that'd be fun. or maybe we do some group records if that comes back ever. I'm still waiting
that'd be so
patiently.
Nice. That'd be fun.
But
I gotta make my way to LA. There's too many
please,
people
honestly,
I gotta meet, man.
the door is wide open.
I'm gonna have like a 40 person hangout, because there's so many of you guys that I know that I've never met in person. I'm like, we gotta all just chill.
Yeah. Well, please let me know if you ever do that. For real, I would be more than happy to help you learn a little bit about La La Land out here.
That'd be great.
So, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great and fantastic rest of your day, and all the continued success to you in your life, man. You really deserve it. Gosh, he is so similar to me. Another one of these people where I'm like, I feel like I'm talking to someone who I hung out with when I was a kid, or another version of myself to a degree. I see so much similarity in our stories and our journeys, and there couldn't have been a better person to get a really popular role in these titles. Not to say that the things he's done before Mika and Genshin Impact weren't equally as prolific and great in his acting and things. It's just certain titles get a lot of attention, and it's really great when the right people get the right attention. He's a wonderful person that looks out for other actors, like we talk about a little bit. I've always been kind of passively consuming his content because we hadn't known each other before this, but it's been a real treat. So thank you, Rob. Thank you. And people dare to do things outside of the box, because you never know what kind of success it'll lead to. All right, another great episode here on the Points of Experience podcast. Like, subscribe, and all that great stuff. And I will see you all on the next one.